Welcome to this week's edition of New York Now. I'm Dan Clark. $250 million and a one-way ticket out of New York's business community. That's what New York Attorney General Tish James wants in a new lawsuit against former President Donald Trump. James and investigators with the state AG's office are accusing Trump, his three eldest children, and a few close associates of business fraud over a 10-year period. The lawsuit basically claims that Trump and his family told banks and investors that their assets, like property and cash, were worth more than they actually were. That way, they could convince those banks and insurers to allegedly lend them more money and sell them better insurance coverage. Because it's a lawsuit, this is all civil, meaning there are no criminal charges against Trump here. But James said that's not off the table in the future.
We believe the conduct alleged in this action also violates federal criminal law, including issuing false statements to financial institutions and bank fraud. And we are referring those criminal violations that we've uncovered to the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York and the Internal Revenue Service.
Let's get into it with Josh Solomon from the Times-Union. Josh, thanks for being here.
Anytime.
So what has the Trump camp said about this lawsuit?
They've called it a witch hunt. That was pretty expected. They've been saying that all along. The witch hunt was, they say it's politically motivated, right? They say this has been Attorney General James's goal all along, to get me to try to take me down. And Attorney General James has said that she wants to take down Donald Trump. So they're playing off of that. They're also saying businesses, banks are not aggrieved from this. They got their money. So what's the problem?
And Tish James is kind of framing this in a different way, right? She's saying it's not so, it is, yes, you did defraud allegedly these banks and insurers, but also what you did, regardless of whether these banks and insurers can afford it, was illegal. And if a regular person that wasn't the president had done this, they would be sued. So why not you? I just thought that was interesting. We were talking on air before that. What did you think of that?
Well, you know, she says white collar crime is crime. No one is above the law. When she was saying during her press conference the other day about no one is above the law, it reminded me of the same statement she was saying when she was going after then Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Yes.
No one is above the law. And that's the kind of stance her office has taken. But remember, before she was a Democrat, she was a working family party's politician. She very much sees it as her goal as a Brooklyn Democrat, born and raised in Brooklyn, as I'm going to represent everyday working people. And she says this is a crime. If a regular person tried to get a house or open up a business with a false claim, they would have the feds going after them. They would have the state going after them. So we're going to go after Trump relative to what we think is the crime.
You know, I do see their argument. I do see the Trump camp's argument about it being political. I mean, we are 5-6 weeks out of an election that could determine control of the House and the Senate. It's a very big election. This could certainly sway voters in some really important swing districts in New York where we don't know who's going to win those races. And as we know, New York is kind of a big determining factor in those majorities, right? So politically, what does this look like in the next couple of weeks, Josh? Do you think this actually makes a big splash?
Well, there's some criticism of this, of the timing from Attorney General James, because typically if DOJ was to put out a big investigation or something, they would try to refrain from doing it within 60 days of an election. And in New York, we didn't end up doing that in this case. The Attorney General did put out a case. And so granted, Donald Trump's not on the ballot, but if you listen to what Governor Kathy Hochul's camp says, they would say Trump is on the ballot. They would say Congressman Lee Zeldin is a disciple of Trump, and this is why you shouldn't vote for him. And so maybe it'll factor into things. Maybe it'll be just another thing that someone thinks about of, well, there's abortion, there's guns, and oh yeah, there's also still Donald Trump. But, to the flip side, maybe Republican voters see this as just another example of the Democratic Party in New York taking advantage of them and good business people and trying to push out good business here.
Yeah, I think we've reached a moment in U.S. politics right now where we are more partisan than ever. I mean, people are very far on either side, and there's fewer people in the middle. I mean, that's just my opinion on the political sphere of things. So I could imagine that this wouldn't change things too much. I mean, we'll have to see how it changes things at the polls. But this is a lawsuit, so it was filed this week. What comes next?
Well, I just want to say one quick point on that is that independents are essential to Lee Zeldin winning
Yes.
the race for governor. He's got to win the overwhelming majority of them. So those few of you that are out there that are in the middle, if you're not won by the Republican candidate, then there's very unlikely to be a Republican governor.
Yes.
In terms of next steps, Attorney General James is asking for $250 million. She's asking for the Trump family to basically be barred from running the organization. She's also referring it to federal investigators, both the IRS and the Southern District in New York, looking to try to saying, well, we can't recommend criminal charges here, but look at the scheme that we found, and you guys should look at that, and we'll see what they do with it.
It's interesting. As you and I both know, litigation can take quite a long time. So while there was a big headline this week, we might not know what the result of this lawsuit is for years and years and years. And by that time, we don't know who will be in the Oval Office and who's going to be controlling Congress. So we'll see. Josh Solomon from the TU, thank you as always.
No problem.